Appalachian history. There's so many stories in these mountains. So many are gone and forgotten. Some are good, some are bad. Here's one of a feud between outlaws. Here's the area. Right at Mingo Gap, just across the state line inside of Kentucky. A place called Mingo, Kentucky. And here's the location of this story. Here's Mingo, and right here's the quarterhouse location, right on the state line between Kentucky and Tennessee, right in the heart of coal mine country. Now here's the city of Mingo as it looks nowadays from Cumberland Mountain, up at the pinnacle they call it, Mingo Gap National Park. Beautiful little place. And here's what it looked like back in the early days of 1890 when it was really booming. Just starting out, it was a boom town back in them days on the Wilderness Road. It was started really in the late 1880s. And what had happened, an entrepreneur, Arthur Alexander, come in here and purchased thousands of acres of land through an agglomerate from England with all of his backers. And this place become a boom town for all the minerals. They found iron ore in Cumberland Mountain, and they was mining it until they found iron ore somewhere else in the country. So it kind of went downhill. But they had unlimited resources of logging here. Timber after timber in these mountains. But their main thing and main source is coal. Big old seams of coal here. And they started little mines all up and down these hollers and these mountains outside of Mingo. I mean all kinds. Mingo Mountain, Reliance, Capitol, all these places. And Alexander even brought a railroad in here, out of Knoxville. And this place was a booming. Back in the early 90s, you could see it here being built. Just coming out of the ground. It was a booming. And they come from just a few hundred people here to thousands. 1,000 a week was coming in here. It boomed really big. But 1891, early 90s, they had a fire and burnt probably half of the town down. Big fire. Here's pictures of it. This was a big fire. Burned about half the town down, these wooden structures. But they got it under control, and they rebuilt. They even went through a flood here, 1895, big flood. Down in this basin, it was bad to flood. But they built that back, and it was a thriving little town back in them days. A lot of histories went through here. They had some nice hotels and inns here too for the elites of the American Association bunch. And yes, like any other boom town, they had saloons come in here. Some were nice, really nice saloons, and some were not. Some were just everyday saloons for the working man. And they had a lot of unsavory characters in these places too. And a lot of people, a lot of fights went on, and a lot of them just little units and gangs and feuds went on to who can control the sale of alcohol and gambling and prostitution. It's like this all across the country in these boom towns starting out before law and order really come in. And these men outside of this city and these mountains, these were real mountain men. Most of them turned into coal miners, but some of them didn't. But they were hard people around these mountains. Now the story we're talking about here at the Quarter House, it was built right on the state line by Lee Turner and the Turner gang. They built a little place here that looked like a frontier fort, they say, is what I was told in the stories. Right on the state line. Purposely put it on the state line for a certain reason. And it had a little old saloon like this. It catered to the mountain people, or just whoever had the money to come in here, buy drinks, women, gambling. It was an unsavory place, they say. And he put it right on the state line, so when he had trouble from Kentucky, they would say it was on the Tennessee side, so they couldn't do that. But if they had trouble from Tennessee, they'd say it was on the Kentucky side, so they just moved back and forth. And they had a railroad up this holler here, Mingo Holler, that come out of this mountain that fed these coal mines up here. Coal mining was booming at that time, really booming, late 1890s. And they were really bringing the coal out of here. Hundreds of men worked up in these little hollers, with all kinds of mining camps going on and being built up these hollers too. But these men, these hard-working miners, they like to take it easy and party too, so they'd go by this old place. And yes, they'd fighting. It was either in Minnesboro or up at the Quarter House. There was always stuff going on like this. But these certain gangs and people wanted to control the sale of liquor and all this gambling and just stuff like this in these places. So there was a lot of feuding going on for control of it. And they resented the Quarter House and the Turner gang, the saloon keepers in Minnesboro, because they claimed that they was taking their business from them. And they didn't like that. So a big old feud ensued for about 10 years or so, they say. And a lot of them got killed too. I reckon the Turners lost a brother or two in these feuds down in Minnesboro, and the saloon keepers in Minnesboro and their friends lost some to the Turner gang, so it was an ongoing feud. But they finally wanted to put an end to this, so they talked the judge at Bell County Courthouse to issue a warrant. Well, he issued a warrant, and the warrant was issued to a William Thompson, deputy sheriff of the county at that time, to serve the warrant. So he gathered up him a posse. Some of them were legitimate officers, and some wasn't. Some say the posse was 50, some say it was 100 men went up there to serve this warrant. But most likely it was about 40 or 50. And they tried to get the railroad to take them up there. But the railroad people didn't want to have nothing to do with it, because if they give them a ride, they would claim they was picking sides of this feud, and so they wouldn't do it. So they had to walk up there, ride up there themselves. Well, they got up there late in the evening on February 12th, 1902, when this happened, about 3 o'clock. And they surrounded the place. They all moved around there in certain positions. The posse did. Get in a position here. Now, the people inside here know that this feud has been going on a long time, and they wasn't up there to arrest them. That's the way they thought. Well, one of them, the officers that was serving the warrant, was a Charles Cecil out of Minnesboro, one of the legit officers. So he come up to the gate, knocked on the gate, told him he's serving a warrant. Well, somebody got out of the window up there and shot down and shot him through the top of the shoulder, went down through his body, and he was disabled, and he died a few minutes later. They drug him out of the way. Well, then all hell broke loose. They were shooting from all angles. all around that courthouse, shooting and shooting. They had good protection in there, good protection, these walls. Well, about dark, we don't know why there was a fire started. Did the posse set it, or did they knock something over in there? But anyway, a fire was started, and it didn't take long before it got into all that alcohol and ammunition in there. Well, that alcohol exploded, and it just burned it. I reckon people were running everywhere trying to get out of it. They had no choice to do it. Some say they was close. They let the women folk run on free, but the men folk, they would shoot them as they come out. Some were close shot in close range. More like murder, they claim. That's the way the stories go. Some got away and some didn't. But come morning, this is what it looked like. Some fled to the mountains, able to get. And all in all, they said there was 7 killed and 3 wounded. They think there was more killed. They just went off into the mountains and died. And family members found them before anybody else did and took them home and buried them. So they don't really know. But there was 2 killed on the posse side and 7 killed on the quarterhouse side. Sad story. Now the next morning the coroner come up here and examined this fire and the bodies, and they found bones in this fire. So they really don't know for sure how many was burned up in the fire. And it was said that hundreds of people come up here the next day to just witness it, look at it. It was amazing. It was a big story for the area. So they rounded up all the bodies that they could find. Now all told, there was 7 killed on the quarterhouse side and 3 wounded. 3 survived. And there was 2 killed on the posse side of the law. And there's a few escaped, and there was some in the fire. They don't know how many burned up. And there was some that died in the woods that they couldn't find because they claimed that some of the family members had retrieved the bodies before they could get them. So, all told, there could possibly been a dozen or so people that died in this little battle. Just a battle between a feud of outlaws. And they decided they was going to bury them at Turner Cemetery. It used to be called Old Yellow Creek Cemetery. It's on the west end of Minnesboro. Here's the sign. And this is what it looked like where they buried the men that were killed at the quarterhouse. This is their grave. Long ago. Now there's been so many stories wrote about this. It's a local legend. Most people don't even know nothing about this story. Especially out of these mountains. Around the world you're listening and watching this. This is just another old story of our history of Appalachia. Yes, we had some bad times here too. Now old Lee Turner, he wasn't involved in the fight. He'd been at La Follette all day on business. But he come back late that evening. On top of the mountain he could see what was going on, but he wouldn't come down there in it. So he actually wasn't in the fight. And they tried to, he lived in, his residence was in Claiborne County, Tennessee. So they really couldn't touch him out of Kentucky. But they took him to trial here and there, but nothing really come of it. Nothing really come of it. And his exploits was in the papers all for years. They even started a little play about what happened at the quarterhouse. And here's a ticket to be sold for the play. But the play never happened. It never was put on. Now this old country up in here, this is what she looks like now. Along the creek, there's nothing left. Even the old coal mines are gone. Nothing left of them. And the old mining camps. Time moves on. And the city of Minisboro is still a thriving little town, but nothing as big as it used to be. All the coal mines around it are just down and out. There's no coal mining industry really around this town anymore. But it's such a peaceful little place. Beautiful country. So I hope you enjoy these little stories of our past. So many are being forgotten, and there's so many yet to be told. So I want to thank you for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.